great power comes responsibility. Do whatever that you want to your best ability, and there is nothing that's impossible with possibility. I am possibly the hero that nobody knew they knew.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to A Rose That Grew in the North End. I am Danny Myers Frierson, and I'm here with President, Founder, and CEO Patricia E. Kelly of Ebony Horsewomen. Mrs. Kelly, you are so important to me, and I thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
With all my guests, I like to tell them that this is a safe space, and whatever comes up for you, I would like to explore that.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So let's get into it. Tell me who you are, Miss Kelly. Tell me about your upbringing.
See, that's a loaded question. Who am I? I'm still figuring that out, to tell you the truth. You know, you just gave some accolades of, you know, founder, president, CEO of Ebony Horsewomen. That's what I do, who I am. I'm a black woman, a cowgirl, a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, wife. That's who I am, you know. Everything else is what I do. I was born here in Hartford a long time ago. I'm not doing ages. When Hartford was pretty much segregated, and lived in a situation, being in a segregated town, where I learned early on about racism and inequality. I was born into a family who had a long history of knowing about that, coming from the southern region, and also from a Native American perspective as well. Had some other history connected to the family, whereas my dad, being born in 1899, his parents were slaves. So we had a unique understanding of racism and the issues that ran across the country as it pertained to black people. But it never really stopped us from doing what we wanted to do, and it never was a thought process where we needed to tamper down dreams or aspirations. And I think that was because of the strong family that I came from. But of course, the situation was as it was in Hartford, as across the country, of having this racist society. The part that I think was unique for me, however, living in a Yankee state and being black, part Native American, and the rest, was this innate love for horses, which was quite out of the ordinary, being, again, only in a Yankee state. If I was in any other southern state, it would not be as unique, but being in Connecticut. But as I learned, as I got older, that this love of horses came through my father's bloodline. And it was quite unique and quite a path to travel, being black and in a New England state.
Yes. Let's talk about the first time you were introduced to horses.
Well, for a real horse, my parents bought a home in the part of Hartford that had not been integrated greatly at that point.
What area?
It was the north end of Hartford, and it was in the Jewish and Italian neighborhoods in the north end of Hartford. And as you might imagine, it wasn't a welcomed event for us to be there. But I lived next door to a Jewish grocer who had a horse and a wagon. And he used to deliver produce through the community with this horse and wagon. And he was a fair-minded individual. And he and I became friends. I lucked up on him just by chance. The neighbors in that area took up a petition to have the seller of the property to meet with them and explain why they sold my parents this home. And on that particular day, I was home, and in view of this crowd that was gathering around our property, and I was beckoned by a voice behind me, and I turned, and it was this guy who looked very much like Santa Claus to me, and he had a horse and wagon, and he kind of beckoned for me to come away from that commotion because he didn't think it was something that I should hear. And he was standing next to this horse, and he said to me, "Little girl, do you like the horse?" And I nodded yes, and he said, "Come." And I crawled through a portion of a wooden fence, and he handed me a brush, and it was a wrap. And myself and this Jewish grocer were like this for many, many years. And I think he was the introduction into horses. But it was obvious to me later on in life that he wasn't the reason why I had this passion for horses. And I realized it somewhere around the age of about 35 when I really got into horses, formed the Ebony Horse Women, and my father had an instant anger about it. But he wouldn't speak to me about it. He wouldn't tell me why he was angry and was not consenting for this new passion that I had. Mm-hmm. And but I learned quite by accident, I should say, that he had been a jockey.
Your dad? My
dad, in the South, had a horrific accident, almost died, never rode again, never talked about it. And when I actually got into horses to the degree that I did, buying horses and riding them at different facilities, he just absolutely wouldn't talk to me about it. But until I bought a Palomino, who was a bit spooky. And my mom, I used to say, "You like Chicken Little, you need to quit." "Oh, the horse is going to kill her." And my dad, showed up at a boarding facility that I was at and said to me, "You got the wrong bit in that horse's mouth, and he's going to hurt you." And I'm thinking, what the heck do you know about horses? And so when I questioned my mother about it, she said, "Well, you better listen to him." And she told me the story. And even after I learned of the story, he wouldn't talk to me about it. So it was clear to me that this passion for horses came through his bloodline. Yes. But it wasn't evident to me that that would be my future. So I did what girls did in my generation, except for, after I got out of high school, I went to the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I was going to say, you skipped some stuff.
Yeah,
but okay. Well. All right, so you went to the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. And then after that, what was the next step towards Ebony?
Well, after the Marine Corps, I came home and got married, had children, divorced, and became, of course, a single mom, and tried not to have a nervous breakdown. When I remembered that this love of horses came from when I was a kid, riding with Mr. Fisher, and then riding while I was in the Corps in California and other parts, and coming to the realization that if I was going to keep it all together, I had to be back on a horse. And there was an organization in Hartford called the Ebony Horse Men at the time, but they were phasing out. They had been in operation since the late 60s, and this was now a lot later on. Actually, I think they were around since the late 50s, but there were still some members who had horses here. And I went to one of them and begged him, "Please let me come to your farm." He had a farm in Glastonbury. "Let me ride again." And he was quite a character. His name was Pudd'nhead Merritt. and well, his real name was Eddie, but everybody called him Puddinhead. And he had 3 horses, and I knew that if I could just get back on a horse, that I could find my center again. He eventually said yes, I could come, and I took my youngest daughter with me, and we began to go on the weekends and ride again. And I knew that I had found my peace, and I had found my center. But of course, this is the early 80s now, and I had girlfriends who were pretty much in the same situation that I was in, you know, married, children, divorced, working 1, 2, maybe 3 jobs, trying to hold it all together. And the peace and serenity that I found on a horse, I wanted them to experience it. So I started to call them and say, you know, you need to come and do this. And they were like, stinking horses, I just had my hair done, just had my nails done. Listen, get your butt out here. It's going to keep you from having that nervous breakdown. And sure enough, they came and found the same peace and serenity that I did. So I founded Ebony Horsewomen on the living room floor of Puddinhead Merritt's home. And we were off and running in 1984. And we would meet every Saturday, Sunday at Puddinhead's house and ride those 3 horses into the dirt. But we would cook him something to eat so he would shut up.
Barter. Very good.
But he was quite a guy. He used to sit in the corner and underneath his breath he would cuss, you know, I want y'all to get that out of my house. I'm like, Puddinhead, we're going to make you a cake. Be quiet. About a year later, he did get up the nerve to throw us out. And then we went to another boarding facility. But it was, Ebony Horsewomen had been established then. And it was an organization for women.
Yes.
Until we recognized that the kids in Hartford were in worse shape than we were. And I changed the organization from a women's organization to a kids organization, youth organization. And we've been on that track ever since.
It's amazing, Mrs. Kelly, and the countless lives you have saved, including mine, because I did have that nervous breakdown, so thank you. And thank you for bringing me back and for all the work that you continue to do. I want to talk about some of the exciting things that Ebony has coming up, and thank you again for allowing me to be the executive producer for the Black Boots Awards.
No, thank you, because you are an amazing talent. We could not have done it without you, clearly. So thank you. So, you know, the Ebony Horsewomen, one of the things that pushes is not just the horses. It's the whole notion that I wanted our children to have the same resources and experiences that children of privilege had in the suburbs, all right? Because riding horses, running an equine facility is not cheap. And to be able to take riding lessons and all the other equine-based programs, it's not cheap. And unfortunately, in communities that have less income, it's almost impossible for children to experience, you know, horses like that. But nevertheless, I wanted that for my children. I wanted that for children who look like me and my children to have these experiences and it not be calculated on whether or not the parents could afford this. So we brought this organization into a people of color community so that my kids could have it. And lo and behold, as our children are very talented in whatever that they do, not only did they embrace this, but they excelled. I would take my kids to horse shows and they would ride rings around other kids. But of course, racism being racism, they would always come back with 6th place. But but we never went to horse shows for the ribbons. I actually took them to horse shows so that they could understand the complexities of racism. You know, we would go to one level of horse show facility, you know, was some of the highest influential. And you would be welcomed and not shunned, but regardless as to how well you rode, you're not going to come away in the top 3 ribbons. There are trainers who know the judges who may go to the same country club. Horses are starting out at $75,000, and that's classism, you know, and it's not just for people of color, but for other people who don't meet that same class. So I would take them to these horse shows so they could understand what you're looking at here is classism, which is also a part of racism, but predominantly classism. Then I would take them to another level of show where we would go and people are clutching the pearls and grabbing the kids, and you're still not going to, no matter how well you ride, you're not going to get the ribbons. And this is clear racism here. And then we would go to another level of show where people, this particular facility is operating with providing riding lessons for people who are paying. And if you come in from the outside, and then particularly being black, you know, and you ride better than the people where parents are paying to do that, that's not going to be good business for them.
Right.
So the kids are still not going to get in that level, that first levels of ribbons, because this is business. This is capitalism. But nevertheless, my kids were so resilient that they had a great time just competing, even if they got 6th place, and it was never about the ribbons. And so, you know, it just told me the uniqueness and the specialties of our kids to be able to understand and learn and still excel, whether they get a ribbon or not. So we were able to do that. And then as time went on, we also recognized that there was something special about horses that helped in healing.
Yes.
Didn't know the science at the time, but we knew that was something. But as the industry evolved around equine, what they call equine therapy, which is a very muddled and non-descriptive term, we began to decide to get certified through various organizations who were providing this training about equine therapy. But in that process, we also learned that it was not culturally competent at all. As a matter of fact, you know, all the places that I would go to get certified, I was generally the only black person there. And the second thing was that it was always geared toward a suburban population and not an urban population. And it had no cultural competency in it at all. And horses are not judgmental in terms of color or race. So there was a problem in my mind with that kind of training. So after several years of research and investigating it, Ebony Horsewomen began to be a training facility for mental health professionals and horse specialists for cultural competent equine-assisted psychotherapy, which is different than equine therapy.
Yes.
And it has been a successful venture where Medicaid providers were paneled with other insurances as well. And now we're able to provide this base of modalities of equine psychotherapy in the urban center for children who do not, or adults who do not do well with talk therapy. So it's another level of therapeutic help that we brought to the urban center, and all again based around the horse, not just being an ornament in therapy, but actually being a diagnostic tool.
Yes.
So we've been happy to do that. And then of late, we've gotten into the arts areas where we've built a museum
Yes.
for the honor of Miss Mary, Stagecoach Mary Fields. And now we've enacted the Black Boots Awards in the Black Boots magazine.
Going back, talk about Miss Stagecoach Mary just a little bit for those that do not know.
So Stagecoach Mary, it's a very complex story about Miss Mary Fields. She was a slave, and out of slavery, she was able, her story picks up where she begins to make an inroads with a convent of nuns and began to be quite a help to them for a period of time. The nuns were located in one area, and then they moved to another area, I believe in Montana, leaving Mary behind. But she learned that once they made this move, or one of the Mother Superiors had gone to this Montana, became very ill, and the nuns in that particular area were not doing well at all. So Mary Fields made her way to Montana, and it doesn't really explain how she did that, but she makes her way to Montana, and she became the great help that she had been in this other area. And actually, in some accounts, would be one of the reasons that this woman, this Mother Superior, survived. So while she was there, the U.S. Postal Service had a contract for a star, I think they call it a star delivery, where it was a 35-mile area that they were looking to have mail delivered. And she was able to get this contract to deliver mail through this Montana territory. And it wasn't a feat for the weak or the shy, because sometimes she had to deliver it by foot because of snow and whatnot. She fought off, wildlife, she fought off. People who would try to rob her. There was just so much that she had to fight out, and she did this for 8 years. And so she was the first black female to deliver the U.S. Postal mail in Montana. And for that, she is now called Stagecoach Mary. And what was interesting about her, when I did the research, there was no mention of children, no mention of a husband or family, no mother, no father, no siblings. So she was in the world. And if you know anything about slavery, and some of the terror in it, was that oftentimes family members could have been sold off, leaving her, alone. And maybe that was one of the reasons why there was never any mention that she had siblings, or even parents, for that matter, or children of her own. But she was quite a figure.
Yes.
You couldn't mess with her. She'd shoot you.
Yep.
She could drink. Most men under the table.
Yes, ma'am.
But she had a heart as big as the state of Montana, and that showed in the way that she helped these nuns out. But of course, she was not one to mess with. She'd drink most men under the table.
Yeah.
She'd shoot you if you got on her nerves. And after a period of time, being this rough, tough lady, I guess the bishop over that convent expelled her from the convent, and then she went on to other things. But the fact that she had been obscure in history for so long, after doing such marvelous work, it compelled us to build this museum in her honor.
Yes.
Which again, goes on to why we do and have developed the Black Boots Awards.
Yes.
Is that the history of the Black equestrian has been demolished, deleted, denied, and it's ridiculous. You know, the history is there, never, in most cases, never taught, never acknowledged, and there not only are Black equestrians who have done unbelievable things in the past, they're doing them today in the present.
Yes.
Without recognition and honor. And thereby was the reason to develop the Black Boots Awards, that these people must be recognized and honored. And not only that, when you look at the horse industry as a whole, Black equestrians all across the United States, we buy horses, trucks, trailers, horse feed, equipment, and everything else, property, and we're contributing to this multi-million-dollar industry without being recognized, which is outrageous.
Yes, and it's something that our people have had to endure throughout the beginning of time.
Absolutely. But if you will not applaud me, I will applaud me. Thus, again, the Black Boots Awards.
Yes.
And it's the only time in history where this population has gotten that kind of recognition.
Yes. Last year we had our inaugural Black Boots Awards at the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts. Tell us a little bit about that experience for you and the people that we welcomed.
You know, when I brought this idea up to my board said, "You can't do it. I don't think you could pull this off." And my response was, "I don't think so either, but I'm a try." And it was almost like a fire was set under me. It was like it was do or die. I had to get it done. And so, you know, I met you. You came in.
Oh, no, I met you.
Okay, we met each other.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you got finished crying and I got finished crying, I recognized what your talents were, and we went to work. And we had the nomination period. We had over close to 100 nominations coming in from all across the United States in every discipline of the horse industry, and it was amazing. We assembled some outstanding judges from various states across the U.S. We finally got it down to our finalists. We worked with talented people here in Hartford to help us pull it together in an awards ceremony. We had the work of our social media manager, Tiffany Jones, who is a genius.
Yes.
And it was all women, an absolute genius. And we were able to do this. And it was absolutely incredible. We had Black equestrians coming in from Colorado, Chicago, Maryland, California, Texas, Louisiana, Atlanta for the Black Boots Awards. And it was absolutely, I think, other than having children, was the greatest thing that I had ever been a part to produce. And that showed us that this is not a fly-by-night idea, that this is something that must be institutionalized for this generation and generations to come to honor us in the work that we do. And when you go on social media, you can see these incredible people.
Yes.
But the problem with that is that social media is like little worlds.
Yep.
And if I don't follow you, I don't know you. And I don't know what you're doing, how well you're doing it, how long you've been doing it. So the Black Boots Awards must continue. But out of that, we created the Black Boots magazine where we have been able to create this wonderful magazine highlighting black equestrians in every discipline and digitalizing it and sending it across America and across the pond.
Yes.
So it's amazing because, again, we are credible members of the horse industry, and you will not deny us. You will not ignore us. And so, and that's the happy part about it, is that I'm not going to wait for you to recognize me. I'll recognize us, by us.
Yes.
For us, by us.
Absolutely. So we're planning for 2024.
Oh my God, yes. So we've gone through the nomination period already. We've gotten an incredible amount of nominees. The judges have now had those nominees that they're looking at, and within, I would say, the next 30 days, we should have our finalists.
Okay.
And from that, we will then wait until the 2024 Black Boots Awards weekend, which will be Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
So instead of one day, since I'm getting calls and emails from people who want to bring their horses in for the event, it's a 3-day event where we will have a Black Western dance on Friday night, which is May the 24th, the actual ceremony on May 25th, and then a barbecue and trail ride on the 26th. So I am so excited about this, and we're getting so much interest in this. It's amazing, just outstanding.
Yes. I'm excited about what's to come. We're planning an exciting weekend experience for everyone that's coming in. We started working on hotel room blocks.
We have that all worked out. We have several hotels in the area who's given us discounts for a number of rooms. We have that worked out. I'm looking for transportation from the airports in. We have
At Black Boots Awards on Instagram and keep up with us on all platforms.